I want to tell you about a couple I worked with. We all walk into a pre-sale center a few years back and they instantly fall in love. The renderings were beautiful. The finishes looked high end. The floor plans felt spacious. So naturally, they bought. Fast forward 2 years, the building is still going up, but the developer has now opened a show suite, an actual finished unit in the building that the public can walk through. Me and my clients, we go back and something shifted. The finishes felt cheaper than what they remembered from the sales center. The layout, it just felt tighter. The bedrooms, which had looked reasonable on paper, felt small when we were actually standing in them. The position of the unit on the property wasn't what they'd pictured either. They'd been living with this version of this townhome in their heads for 2 years, and the real thing just didn't match it. They know they can't sell right now, but they're fortunate. It's in a part of North Vancouver where brand new townhomes are generally scarce and families are actively seeking properties just like this to rent. And even with rents softening across Metro Vancouver, they still have runway. But not everyone does. The gap between what you see at a sales center and what you can actually walk into is exactly what this video is about. Because pre-sale versus resale is one of the most common decisions for buyers to face in Vancouver, and most people make it based on presentation, not reality. Here's what most buyers believe about pre-sales. They believe they're getting in early, locking in today's price before the building is finished and riding that appreciation through the construction period. They believe the new building, the new warranty coverage, that modern finish, it's all worth the wait. There's something that feels smart about securing something before it's built. That story made a lot of sense between 2015 and say 2021. In a market moving 10, 15, 20% a year, locking in a price and waiting, that was a real strategy. People made real money doing it. But that story depends on one thing being true, that prices keep going up while you wait. And that's not always a given. It never was. It just felt like one. So here's the tension nobody talks about when you're standing in a sales center looking at a floor plan renderings. When you buy a pre-sale, you're taking on 4 types of risk at the same time. The first one is construction risk. The building might be delayed. It may come in different from what you saw it on paper. Layouts shift. Views, they get blocked by buildings that just didn't exist when you bought. And materials, they can get substituted. My clients found this out when they walked through the show suite. The finishes they'd been picturing for 2 years weren't what showed up. The second is financing risk. You locked in your rate in at today's conditions, but you're closing in 3 or 4 years. If your financial situation changes, maybe job change, anything, getting your financing approved at completion, it's just not guaranteed. Number 3 is the market risk. If prices fall between purchase and completion, you walk to the finish line of a multi-year wait in a unit less than what you paid. And then there's the timeline risk. Developers delay, sometimes by months, sometimes longer, and it's all within the contract. It's all allowable. Your life has to stay on hold while you wait for a building to finish on someone else's schedule. You're not just buying a condo, you're buying all 4 of those risks on top of the condo. Now, here's the part that really matters for where we are right now. Right now in Vancouver, you can walk into most resale concrete buildings and buy a comparable unit, often a bigger one, often in a better location for less than a pre-sale in the same neighborhood. That wasn't always true. For a long time, pre-sales commanded a premium because of that appreciation story. But that premium has narrowed significantly, and in many cases, it's just flipped. Resale is cheaper. You can see the building, walk the unit, pull the strata documents, and know exactly what you're buying. And you can move in. The assignment market tells you a lot about how some pre-sale stories end. When you see assignment listings, people selling their contract before buildings complete, you're often looking at someone who needs out. Maybe the market moved, maybe their financing fell through, Maybe they just can't close. That market exists because pre-sales sometimes go sideways at a real rate that the sales center just doesn't mention. So, am I saying never buy pre-sale? Absolutely not. That's not the full picture. There are situations where it totally makes sense. If you're an experienced investor with a long time horizon, a strong cash position, and you genuinely believe in a specific location, pre-sale can definitely work. You're not depending on short-term appreciation. You're buying into a building you've researched from a developer with a track record, and you're holding on long enough that the risks flatten out. If you've found a presale with a strong developer, a floor plan that generally works, and there's simply nothing comparable in resale in that area, sometimes it's just the right call. But go in knowing what you're taking on. And some neighborhoods have generally thin resale inventory. In those cases, presale may be your only way in. But for most buyers, most people I talk to aren't in that position. Most buyers can find a solid resale unit in a well-run building that is available now, that costs less, it carries less risk, and it lets them get on with their life instead of waiting for years to find out if the floor plan they picked on paper actually works for how they live. Here's the thing about floor plans on paper. They're optimistic at best. The sales center is perfectly staged. The renderings show light at the exact right time of day. The square footage numbers include everything, sometimes the balcony, sometimes the mechanical closet. My client spent 2 years picturing a specific version of their home. When they walked in the show suite and saw the real thing, or what could be the real thing, the bedrooms were smaller than they had imagined. The unit's position on the property wasn't what they expected. Nothing was technically wrong. It just wasn't what they had been living with in their heads. With resale, you walk in, you see it, you feel how the light hits the living room at 2 in the afternoon. You sit in the bedroom and decide if it's actually quiet. You pull the strata documents and find out what's been happening in the building for the last 5 years. You know what you're buying before you write the check. That's a completely different way to buy. And in a market where buyers have real choices, most of the time, it's the smarter one. So here's how I want you to think about this. If you're drawn to a presale, ask yourself honestly, is it the building attracting you, or is it the story? Because the story of buying early and watching your investment grow, it's compelling. It's what sales centers are designed to sell you. If you're seriously considering a specific presale, look at the developer's track record. Have they delivered on time before? Have their buildings come in as promised? Pull strata documents from their previous projects and see how those buildings have been managed. Talk to people who already own in them, and then compare it honestly to what resale can offer you right now. Same neighborhood, same bedroom count, similar square footage. What does resale cost? What do you actually know about it? How long before you can move in? That comparison will tell you more than any sales center presentation will. And I want to hear from you on this one. Have you bought a presale before, and did it match what you were expecting when you finally got your keys? Or are you sitting on the fence right now trying to decide between presale and resale? Drop it in the comments below. I read all of them, and it generally helps me understand what the next video should cover. So here's where I land. For most buyers in Vancouver right now, resale. Lower price, less risk, more information, faster possession. The presale premium that made sense in a rising market is harder to justify when you can often buy the comparable unit for less today. If you're trying to work through this for your specific situation, which building, which neighborhood, whether the presale you're looking at actually stacks up against what's available in resale, that's exactly the kind of conversations I have with clients. Link to book a call is in the description below. No pitch, just a straight look at your options. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.